everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. Today I thought we would make some butterflies since spring is right around the corner. These are going to be super easy, very scrappy. You only need yardage for your background. You could even have scrappy background, but the squares are going to be 12.5 inches, so you at least need a piece of fabric, 12.5 inches for your background. And then you need an image of a butterfly. You can draw your butterfly, you can get a kid's coloring book, but something that you can trace, and then some freezer paper. Let me show you how we're gonna do this. I have my butterfly image here. The first thing I'm gonna do is take my freezer paper and trace my butterfly onto the freezer paper. You can just get freezer paper at the grocery store, but not parchment paper. This is different than parchment paper. One side of the freezer paper is kind of matte finish, and the other side is kind of silky and smooth and a tiny bit sticky. You want the sticky smooth side down and the matte finish on top. Take a pen, this is just, you know, a regular pen, but you want one that's not gonna smudge. So then you're just gonna trace your image onto the freezer paper. Here I have traced my wing. I will then trace all of the other parts of this butterfly, taking these scraps of freezer paper. So I'll trace, you know, the inner part here and the body, not the antenna. And once I've traced those, I will cut these pieces out right along the line. You don't need to leave 1/4 of an inch, just cut right along the line. I use regular scissors, not fabric scissors, because I don't know exactly how, you know, you're not supposed to use paper on your fabric scissors, and you want to keep those nice and sharp. So I use just regular scissors, cut right along the line. I'll cut out each one of my shapes, and then we'll do the next step. Before we do our next step, we need to pick some fabrics. I have pulled all of my kind of bright colors, anything that is not a blue, because I'm going to use my blue as a background. This one is actually probably too blue. But let me take a look at what I have here. I think I have some really awesome choices. So I'll need to pick, I'll also need a brown for the body, I just realized, but for the wing, I'll need 3 different fabrics, then a brown for the body. Let me pick a couple, and then we will iron our freezer paper templates onto the fabrics. I have my background square here, 12.5 inches. Now I had said that your background square needs to be 12.5 inches as well, and that's actually not true. It really depends on how big your butterfly is. So if you make a smaller butterfly, you'd have a smaller background, and a larger butterfly would obviously be a larger background. Now the other thing that I'm gonna do differently than I initially thought is I thought that I would have a different fabric for each of these, but I think I'm actually gonna use the purple for the background of the wing, and then this for both parts of kind of the accent of the wing. And instead of a brown for the body, I'll use this goldy yellow. Now is the fun part. I'm gonna iron my freezer paper on to my fabric. It doesn't take a lot of heat, just a little bit. And then I'm gonna cut right along the edge, not leaving 1/4 of an inch, just cutting right along the edge of the freezer paper all the way around the shape. Just like this. Now, the really satisfying part, you're gonna peel the freezer paper off of the wing. You will notice that when I cut out my pieces, I only cut out 1/2 of the butterfly. That's because you can use this template over and over again. And if I flip my fabric over and iron it to the wrong side of the fabric, then I'll end up with a wing going in each direction. So I'll do the same thing. I'll iron the template, and you can use this template over and over and over again. If you make a bunch of blocks, this will probably get you through all of the blocks. And then again, cut around the outside. And again, we'll pull the freezer paper off, and then we should have 2 wings. I'm gonna do this for all the pieces. Obviously, the middle, I only need 1. My butterfly pieces are cut down. None of them are secured, but I've kind of placed them on top of each other to see how it'll look. I think it's pretty good. So I am gonna take these off for a minute and just finger press this in half, and then I'll do it again in the other direction so that I can get the center lines. And open it back up. And then place these back on here. This should be about symmetrical on my background. Now I want to take this off and scooch these in just a teeny bit because I'm going to sew these down first and then sew this on top. I'm going to also take these pieces off. I have my glue here. You can use any kind of glue. You can even use, this is specifically basting fabric glue, but you can use Elmer's glue or a glue stick. It doesn't have to be specifically fabric glue, but I am gonna kind of go along the edge here, secure this down with glue, let it dry, and then what I'll do is top stitch right along the edge, all along here. I'll probably go around twice. I'll do one super close to the edge and then come in a bit. You can blanket stitch it. I'm not going to blanket stitch. I'm just going to use a straight stitch, but you can use any stitches that you like. So I'll glue this side on, stitch around, and then we'll see how that looks. You can see I top stitched right along the edge, went around 2 times. Next, I'm going to place my accent pieces, and I'll do the same thing, lift them up, glue, and then top stitch around the edges. This is really great. I am very pleased with how these fabrics are working together. As you can see, I just top stitched again, went around twice for each side, and the final piece we need to put on is the body. I'll do the same thing, glue it down and then top stitch around. And then you could do a variety of things for the antenna. You could draw with pencil some antenna and then use some embroidery floss to stitch on top of that, or you could use a fabric marker, a very thin fabric marker, and draw on some antenna. I think I'm gonna leave my butterfly without any antenna, just because I don't feel that it really needs it, or when I finish I could always add them later if I want. But let me do this last step. Here's the finished block. I think it looks really good. What I like about it is that it kind of has this layered look because we kept on adding fabrics on top of each other. So it has almost this 3-dimensional feel to it, but it's not stiff because we didn't use any interfacing. So it has kind of this really just fabric-y feel, but it does have that 3-dimensional aspect. Fabrics are great. So a couple things that you can do with this that I think would be cool. What I would like to do is make more of these butterflies. I'm just going to finish with this one today. But in the future, if you have kind of like 2 tones of a background like I do here, I think it would be really cool to make, for example, maybe like 9 butterflies and put the backgrounds right up against each other with no sashing. So it almost reads as a checkerboard look. The background would be a checkerboard look, but then you'd have these beautiful butterflies on every single block. You could also just start with this in the middle and do some awesome borders around it, and it would be a nice size baby quilt, or you could just bind it as is, have it be a wall hanging or a pillow. Lots of possibilities, so super cute. The other thing is, if you really wanted these to be completely scrappy, because it really is fun to use your last bits kind of for this middle butterfly piece, and if you wanted the whole thing to be scrappy, you could piece together some fabric for the background. So you could, make a bunch of light blue squares and sew them next to each other, and then place the butterfly on top, or do, strips on the diagonal of a light blue or white or cream and put your butterfly on top. So this could be a completely scrappy project, which when you put all of the blocks together and you have a very scrappy background, once you get more of the butterflies, I think that would have a really cool effect. So that's something to try as well. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.